It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Brian Jankowski, who this is May 6th on a Monday, and this Friday, May 10th, he will graduate and be a DMD, Doctor of Medical Dentistry. On Friday, he's currently, right now, he's still at school. He's podcasting in for me from AT Still in Mesa, Arizona. My gosh, afterwards he will relocate to Salt Lake City, Utah with his wife and 3-year-old daughter. He has joined Abundant Dental and is excited to begin working in the field of dentistry. Prior to dental school, Brian worked in medical sales. He was also a 2-sport Division I athlete at Weber State University. Thank you so much for coming on the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My gosh, doesn't it seem like just a long time from the time you decided as in grammar school you wanted to be a dentist till now you're finally going to be one this Friday? How does that feel?
It's nice to get through. It's been a long path. Everyone tells me it's going to feel short when it's over, but I think that right now it's feeling a little bit like a long journey to get there. So I'm excited to be done.
Oh my gosh, and I love having we're a variety show of trying to talk about the 10 different specialties, business, everything. It's so awesome to get a person the week they're graduating from dental school. Tell us about your journey, and how did you go from being an athlete to a dentist, and how was school, and what are your plans, and what could you share with all the other kids still in dental kindergarten school?
So my path started out at a young age. I got interested in the healthcare industry. My dad is in the healthcare industry, and I talked to him a lot about it, and he got me interested in multiple fields, and I finally just landed on dentistry. And that was in junior high is when I really got interested in continuing on with dentistry. Kept my grades up, got into school to play sports. I played basketball and football at Weber State. I rode the bench in basketball. I just want to be clear with that. But got there, had to put in a lot of effort and things like that as far as time management. And I just kept my interest because my mentor during college, Cam Quayle, he is a pediatric dentist in Utah as well. And he played football at Weber State as well prior to his dentistry. So I kind of what's
his name?
Cameron Quayle.
Cameron, Quayle like a bird?
Quayle.
Huh. And so one of your early mentors was a pediatric dentist.
Yes, sir. Yep. And he played tight end at Weber State also before he went into dentistry. So I just kind of bounced off ideas. And then my parents pushed me along the way as well and kind of kept that fire going. So I knew I had to keep my grades up and things like that. But that's how I kind of continued on to the dentistry path, long story short.
So a lot of those, it's kind of interesting. A lot of our forefathers were big dudes like you. And that was how engine-driven endo got started. There was a endodontist in Chattanooga, Tennessee, named John McSpadden back when I was about your age, and he's this monster of a man. I mean, and he showed me his hand. I mean, he couldn't have done a root canal on the second molar, so he had to look at that handpiece and think, how can I do this via something I can hold? Right. It was amazing. So how was AT Still?
It's been great. It's the clinical experience that you get at this school, I feel like is second to none. The external rotations that we get while we're here are amazing. You really do a lot of dentistry on those. And it's an environment where the more that you put in, the more you get out of it. So if you're really interested in doing certain things and you make that clear, I think that a lot of the faculty, as well as those external rotations, they really push you to get things done that can allow you to do better in the future.
So, can I ask a personal question? What kind of student loan debt are you going to have?
I'm going to have quite a bit as far as the number.
Because you're married with a baby.
Yes, sir. Well, so my wife worked full time while we were in dental school and prior to dental school. So that was really helpful. And she helped me through this process a lot, not only from that standpoint, but on other standpoints. But fortunately, I had a full ride scholarship for undergrad, so I don't have to have that build on top of my dental school loans. So that's going to help out quite a bit.
But what do you think what do you think the debt will be though? Or would you rather not say? Is that personal?
No, I think when it's all done, it'll be between $250,000 to $300,000.
So $250,000 to $300,000 to live in the richest country in the world, the United States, as a doctor. And you go ask Cameron Quayle, who's been a pediatric dentist. How many years has he been a pediatric dentist up there?
I actually don't know a number to put on that, but it's in the double digits. He's not that old.
Ask him to tell you in all of his years at as a pediatric dentist what the average divorce cost from all of his dentist friends out there. I mean, everybody freaks out about the $300,000 student loan. I just want to remind them their first divorce will be well north of $1 million. So I think $300,000 to become a doctor in America, it's obviously still a good buy, because look how many people are still applying to dental school. Every time they raise the price 10,000, the demand doesn't drop. So you're sitting here right now, and you know the average specialist in America net income is about $100,000 more than a general dentist. So your friend Cameron was a pediatric dentist. Did you have thoughts of specializing, or did you want to be a general dentist, or how did your thinking go on this?
I went into dental school actually with the thought that I was going to specialize in pediatrics, and I think a lot of that had to do with Cameron Quayle. But I stepped away from that because I kind of opened the door to all of the specialties and just kind of got an understanding for everything. I didn't want to close the door on anything because I knew that would just be a good way to shoot myself in the foot, basically, and then get done with dental school and maybe wish that I had focused on something a little bit more. So my plan was to stay general, and my wife and I had a really big talk about that because I have a really strong interest in business, and I've always had a strong interest in business as well as helping patients on every level. I kind of want to be a one-stop shop. And for the things that really are outside of my realm, I'll absolutely refer those. But as far as, helping patients and then keeping that business mentality, that's general just seemed like the best fit for everything.
So for the two guys that are listening today that are as old as me, we keep hearing all these things, that millennials are so different, how it goes and all that kind of stuff. In your class, how big's your graduation class?
I think it's a little over 70. I think it 74 maybe.
Okay. Of those 74 kids, how many of them do you think like business, like the business of dentistry, would like to own their own business, as opposed to saying, hell no, I'd never do that. I want to go work for Aspen?
I don't like to put a number on it, but just to guesstimate it, I would say about maybe 20 to 30 really do like the business side. The other just kind of want to have a different route, but that's a guesstimate. I've never dug into that too much with a lot of people, but I do know there's a good handful of people that are interested in the business side.
And how many and they also told us a change that now that the dental profession went from mostly male, G.V. Black and Pierre Fichard, to half the class being women, that the women are more likely to just want a job so they can go home and not have to worry about the business. Do you think that's true or not true?
I think that's case specific, because I think that there are a lot of women out there who are very interested in the business side. I know that for a fact, one of the doctors that I worked with pretty closely, Stephanie Mohan, she's very strong in the business side, and I really enjoy talking to her. I think that she's got a lot of really good things going. She's kind of on the forefront of some of the business.
How did you meet Stephanie Mohan, clear out in Iowa?
Yeah, so I actually listened to a lot of these podcasts starting my first year, and I would reach out to a lot of the doctors when I felt like they were someone who I really respected from listening to them and things like that. And I would try and contact them and just pick their brains and things like that. And Dr. Mohan and I heard her first on your podcast, actually. And Dr. Mohan and I started talking during the beginning of my second year, the end of my first year, one of the two. And she just kept the door open. And she had a lot of great ideas. She was a great mentor with a lot of opportunities. And I actually, I've talked with her. We still keep in touch. She's got a good thing going.
She's amazing. She was episode 140, and my gosh, what an amazing role model. And what I love about people like Stephanie in Des Moines, Iowa, is that she's not doing this multi-million-dollar practice in Beverly Hills. She's doing it in Iowa. I mean, and Iowa, every time I go to back home to Wichita and I drive around and all those small town people, they all are driving $40,000 F-150s to $90,000 F-250s, and any new combine that I've sat on in the last 5 years was somewhere between $300,000 and $600,000. I mean, these farmers got bank And she doesn't have the mindset of thinking with your brakes on. And if someone walks in her office and she knows they're gonna end up being the 20% of Americans at age 74 have zero teeth, she's all ready to present a $50,000 treatment plan. She doesn't think in fear. And these people that say that they don't want to do that, I'm like, well, what do you want to sell? Why don't you just, if you want to sell houses, throw your dental degree away and go get a real estate license, because you're only going to live once, dude. You're only going to live, the longest anyone's lived on earth so far is 1 million hours. Just spend it doing what you like. And if you don't think saving your teeth is a great idea, but buying a house or a boat or a car is, then switch professions. I mean, Stephanie don't think with her brakes on. I don't think with my brakes on. And you're going to go to Utah, and they're all going to say, oh, well, we're just poor little Utah. We're not rich San Francisco, and I got a big family, and it's like, and what is your question? You don't want to have any teeth when you're 74, but you want to buy 13 new cars. The average American will buy 13 new cars with a median average price of $33,000 between age 16 and 77. And so your point is what? That when you pay your last payment, you'll go upgrade for a new F-150 pickup truck, but you wanna leave all your teeth on the table? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It's simply ridiculous. So tell us more about your journey. So after this Friday, what's your first move then?
My little one, my little 3-year-old's going to finish out her schooling. She had like a preschool that she's going to finish up on next Thursday, and then we're gonna hang out with her and just play with her. And then we actually move on May 19th. We'll be in Utah. We got a house out there, and then I'll get going. I'm going to start the end of May with Abundant Dental, and I'm actually going to start, regardless of when my license comes in, I'm going to start assisting just to kind of understand the back office and things like that and how they run everything, just to get a better feel for everything. And then I think that'll make the transition more smooth when my license does come through, and we'll go from there.
At the so Abundant Dental, that's started by the genius pioneer, Chris, do you pronounce it Niebauer? Nabauer, Chris Nabauer. So talk about your journey. How did you run into that guy?
So Dr. Nabauer, him and I, and then Anne Marie, we started talking. I was on one of my external rotations, and his philosophy and what he presents and kind of how he pushes his people. I mean, he started having me read books. He sent it over some CE courses. He just really got the ball rolling. And then he explained some of his background as far as he had 26 practices in the DC area, and then he sold those to a conglomeration and kind of moved on to Utah because him and his wife fell in love with Park City. So we just kept the conversation line open, and from there he just continued on with, offering the job. And I liked what he was doing. I liked his future plan. He wants to have, 400 practices and things like that. He's really trying to grow from a business standpoint and get the ball rolling with that. I
thought he sold all of his practices and retired to Park City, Utah. Sold them all out east.
Yep, he got rid of them in DC, and then he's trying to redo it in Utah. So right now he has 3 currently, and he was purchasing, or in the works of purchasing, the 4th one during my interview. But his plan long term is to have 400 in the west area. West part of the nation. That
is amazing. Well, tell him to come on the show and talk about it.
He would probably love to. He'd be a great person to talk to.
Because the thing I tell these kids, sometimes they get a bad attitude because they wish they had their own office and they're working for some corporate dentist. I'm like, dude, somebody at Heartland is managing 900 offices. Are you pretty sure there's nothing you could learn from that? Because I'm pretty damn sure that if you comprehended about 10% of what Rick Workman and Pat Bauer know, you'd have $1 million. You'd probably be collecting $1.5 million, taking home $350, 2 years out of school. And so you're going to go get a job at Abundant, and do you want to be? You're going to be an employee. How long do you want to be an employee? Is your longer goal to open your own office that you own yourself? What are you thinking at this age?
So long term, that I want to own practices, and I want to own my practices, and I want to run practices and things like that. And kind of like I said, the business side is really interesting to me, but I want to keep my hands in the dentistry. And within the first 6 to 12 months, he's going to have me running a practice, which will really give me some hands-on skills. I'm all about being thrown in the fire. I think that's a good way to learn. And I think you need to be a little bit, understanding of the business side before you can just get thrown into the fire with something as important as dentistry. You can't just jump in there blindly. So the first 6 to 12 months, they'll really just have me understanding everything. And then from there, they'll kind of hold my hand through the process, I'm sure. But the plan is own and practice. And then from there, we'll just grow.
Yeah. And the greatest companies ever built were people that made the product. I mean, engineers that started Ford, that started Hewlett Packard. Sam Walton was a genius supply chain management guy. That's where all that came from. So I'm at crossroads of going forward. Should dental offices be owned by non-dentists? It's kind of scary. I mean, at the end of the day, we're doing dentistry by dentists. I don't know if I want it ran by someone from Wharton School of Business. I mean, so I look at some of these horror stories of non-dental people making dental decisions. So I think if anybody should manage a chain of dental offices, it should be a dentist who can roll up his sleeves and get down there and do some dentistry.
Right. That's exactly how I feel. I think it's something to keep the integrity of the profession.
And I think so you're going to work in what city? Are you going to be Cameron's in Pleasant View, Utah, or is it going to be Salt Lake City?
I'll be in Sugar House, which is just a little suburb of Salt Lake City. But currently, Dr. Nabarro has practices in Sugar House, Murray, and Riverton. And then Dr. Quayle, he's got practices up and down that valley, from Ogden down to. He has one in Salt Lake, I know that, and I think he has another one in between there.
So, do demographics matter? I mean, are you wanting to go to Utah because? I mean, I assume if you're at AT still going to Utah that you're LDS. You got a bunch of. You're not LDS?
No, and it's amazing how many interviews I went on and got asked that question.
Oh my God! You look LDS. They're always gorgeous, handsome people. I mean, they are. They're just amazing people. And
Catholics can be pretty too.
So if you're not going there for that reason, was that the best demographic place to go, or was it the leadership more with Cameron Quayle opportunity that overrode demographics?
I think that there were a lot of pieces that went into this. I think that being close to our family was important. Both my wife and my family live in Idaho Falls, which is 3 hours north. We're in the surrounding area of Idaho Falls. So it was nice to be close to family, and demographics are really important. I started doing demographics early on. And surprisingly, I think at the end of the day, Utah gets a stigma. And I think a lot of people preach that it's this bad place to go and there aren't opportunities and things like that. And I think it's been said so many times that people just spew that, because people tell me that all the time now when I tell them I'm going to Utah. But if you look at a lot of the demographics that I researched, as far as growing, as far as a business safe environment, as far as people that actually go to the dentist and opportunities for dentists and businesses and small businesses, Utah is a great place. Salt Lake is a booming environment right now. Dr. Demographic, I know you're searching stuff right now, but Dr. Demographic,
Scott McDonald. Scott McDonald.
And he does a lot of this stuff. So he always does a kiss of death and thriving areas. He just recently did his 2019 Kiss of Death areas, but his 2018 thriving areas, number 6 on the list, I think, was Salt Lake City for best metropolitan areas in the nation as far as
So did you pay for demographic information, or did you do it with Dr. Google instead of Dr. Demographics? I mean, did you try to do this online? I mean, just put in the work.
I did a lot of my own research with Dr. Demographic. He does weekly podcasts where he talks about everything. And I always tune into those, or I watch the reruns of those and things like that. And that gave me a lot of opportunities to understand. And then I mean, my wife put up with a lot, but I was a little I was obsessive with demographics because I just want to make sure that my family was in the right position for success, and I want to take care of them. So I was pretty obsessive with demographics.
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas, and all the dentists that I became friends with from 7th grade to Lane Dental School, Every time I would come home from any break, I go visit about a half a dozen of them, Kenny Anderson, Dr. Papard, Peltzer, Knudsen, and they would always whine that, the population of Wichita had been the same for 20 years, and every year 30, 40 new dentists come from Creighton and UMKC, and their income goes down every single year. So I got really focused on demographics, landed up in Phoenix, and everybody told me how lucky I was because I was in Phoenix. I'm lucky. I'm 1,000 miles away from where my mom is. I mean,
exactly.
And if demographics don't matter, then go to the Congo and practice there for 5 years, and then call me and tell me how the Congo's going. So demographics absolutely matter. And then within a city, you might find little pockets like in Phoenix. I mean, there's areas in the middle of nowhere that have a dentist for every 500 people. And then some area 40 minutes away is a dentist for every 6,000. And then you got to look at the demographics for the hours because there's 168 hours in a week. But on Sunday, there's not a dentist in Utah. And on Saturday, there's maybe 3. And so I see all that in San Francisco where people go into San Francisco and they go, well, nobody needs me Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. So I'm going to do Monday through Thursday from 12 to 9 p.m. and open up on Saturday. And they're just crushing it because, and look at me. I mean, my practice, the worst thing about my practice is that I'm the owner and I'm old, fat, lazy, tired. My 4 kids have turned into 5 grandkids. I don't want to hustle. But especially against you. What are you, 25?
I'm 30. I just turned 30.
So you're 30. You know how much more energy you have than a 57-year-old dog like me? I mean, so the young and the hungry doing evenings, weekends. So what's your plan when you so what's your plan? You're going to go up there and start learning the dentistry from a great mentor, and that's another thing, a takeaway point that these people always look at a dental job as which one's going to pay them the most money. Well, what if your whole passion was to learn Invisalign, and here's a guy over here that's paying less but does 20 Invisalign cases a month, and you end up taking a job somewhere else that doesn't even do anything you're interested in. I think it's so genius of you that what you're most excited about is the mentor. You're going to be working for your mentor. I mean, that's
which will be great.
Oh, it's everything. You can't put a price tag on that.
Right. And that was my thought. Back to your question, though, my plan up there is to just hit the ground running and learn as much as I can and be as hands-on as possible. Fortunately, we're open on Saturdays and Sundays, and I think that's going to pull in so many people.
He's open on Sunday?
He's open on Sunday, and that's one thing that I love. I think that there are a lot of things that people aren't doing that you make small little pivots and little tweaks to your business, and all of a sudden, that production that comes from that is, you're doing much better than the person down the street because they just haven't changed the way. And I think that's another thing with Utah. I think that, if you do everything the same as everybody else, then you're probably going to get the same result. But if you try and tweak some of the stuff that you're doing and change and open up the doors a little bit longer and, touch some of those people that can't come in Monday through Friday because they have a job also, then all of a sudden your production goes up, your case acceptance goes up, everything like that. So I think that you just need to pivot, and from there you'll have growth.
I love how you have a background in medical sales experience and in dental school. You're an ambassador for Metalita Scrubs and Smile Virtue.
Smile Virtual, yep. So yeah, Metalita Scrubs is it's a influencer for them. So I promote their scrubs and they send discounts and things like that, and they have a great product. So that's that. But Smile Virtual is something that when I talk about pivoting and having the way of the future, that's something that people should really look into because that is a game changer for practice. That's
owned by a genius, Brian C. Harris, right here in Phoenix, Arizona, has been on the show. He's been pioneering, innovating stuff his entire career. So talk about what he's doing with Smile Virtual. Why does smilevirtual.com excite you?
That is something that I think that truly can change a practice. I think the way he explains it is Kobayashi, he was the hot dog guy, right? Mm-hmm. He explains it that a lot of people were eating hot dogs just the normal way when they were doing those hot dog competitions. But then Kobayashi came in and he ate a hot dog differently, and all of a sudden he broke the record. And then he's the guy and he changes the game and all this. And Smile Virtual is kind of a new way to eat a hot dog, basically. And what it does is it's a virtual consult where people can send in a couple pictures of them, explain what they do or do not like about their smile, what they would like to change, some of the things that they've heard about. And then from there, the dentist can send back a virtual and video consult and explain, hey, these are some of the things that we can do. These are some of the things that have been done with a case similar to yours. So you'll send over some pictures that show, what 6 veneers look like. And then you send that to them and you say, this is how many appointments it's likely going to take. This is the cost. And, do you want to schedule an appointment? And so you cut out the middleman, and then you change all of your leads, go straight to that, and they can schedule an appointment. So, the biggest thing when you're doing a big cosmetic case, whether it's Invisalign, veneers, all-on-4, anything like that, a lot of times it's the financial aspect. And on top of that, it's, hey, I got to go talk to my spouse or go talk to my friend about it before I make this big decision. Well, now they can have them in on the virtual consult with them. So you take out the middleman and you speed up the process. Not only is the consult shorter, but your case acceptance can go up, everything. So I think that's a business move that can really, truly change the future.
So, cosmetics, some people are really attracted to that. Some people, they're all attracted to everything. What in dental school, what types of dentistry excited you? Do you want to learn molar endo? Do you want to place implants? You're talking about cosmetic dentistry. Is that what's really captured your imagination the most, is cosmetic dentistry?
I have an interest in almost everything. I really enjoy oral surgery. I like fixed pros. I enjoy endo. I had some good experience with molar endo, and I still like endo. So I enjoy that. I was able to get Invisalign into our school to do a free certification course for our class, and I think that's a really interesting product. Implants, I want to get going on those a little bit more. We get some experience, but I know that I need to get more experience with that. The bread and butter, filling, drilling, all of that, I think it's all interesting to me. That's another reason why I stayed general.
That is amazing. I always have that dilemma because, the specialists make $100,000 more than the general dentist. 120 years ago, in 1900, healthcare had no specialty. It was only 1% of GDP. By the time we got to the year 2000, it was 14% of the economy. It had 58 specialties with MDs and 9 with general dentists. Now we're at 2020 and there's 10 specialists. Do you really think we can go back to 1900 where a dentist is going to be exceptional at root canals, fillings, crowns, Invisalign, implants, bone grafting, sleep apnea, TMJ? Do you really think you can just be doctor everything?
I think that it's risky to become truly doctor everything. I think you need to be a realist and realize what kind of things you need to pass to a specialist. I think that it's a good idea, though, to have some knowledge on everything. And then to get to the point where you're comfortable doing, I'm not going to do every single molar endo that comes in the door. I think that that's a bad idea, not only for the patient, but for the time of everything. And I think that I'm not going to do every single wisdom tooth extraction or anything like that. I think it's a safety thing at that point. But I think that I need to have knowledge on everything. So if nothing else, I can at least inform the patient on things.
So how in your mind are you? You can't learn everything at once. It takes
right.
All these different institutions. Where would you prioritize? And going to where'd you say you're going? Did you say Sugar City?
Sugar House. Yep.
Sugar House. That is so funny. A dentist invented cotton candy. I thought that was funny. It was called fairy dust when he started. But going to Sugar House, even though a dentist should never be around sugar, where would you prioritize the most important? You should go where they ain't and create a supply of what they're demanding. What do you think they're demanding at Sugar House from the most to last? You think it'd be implants, cosmetics, Invisalign, kids? Where do you how do you rank the demand?
I think that kids are going to be a big one in Utah, period. But I think that implants, a lot of people are interested in that for the future. But I think that Utah, a big thing is going to be cosmetics. And I think veneers and crowns and those kinds of things are going to be a big piece, along with the normal general dentistry stuff. But I think implants, crowns, veneers, and that's why that Smile Virtual, I think, is you're speeding up the process, increasing case acceptance. Like I said, you got to do things a little bit different to be successful, especially in a place where people say that it's a tough place to be successful. That's the stuff I'll really focus on.
Yeah, I do want to say one caveat on the cosmetic dentistry, because I've been a dentist here 32 years, and my gosh, everybody who's crushing it in cosmetics is hot like you. You can't. When I did my demographics, there was this place, North Scottsdale, like 101st and Via Linda, and Ahwatukee, which is, Ahwatukee, it's actually Phoenix, But you ask anyone in Ahwatukee, do you live in Phoenix? They say, no, I live in Ahwatukee. And I'm like, well, you might want to talk to your mailman. But I did not go to Scottsdale. I gave it to my best friend from dental school, Steve Hayes, and he went there because Steve was hot and he could just pull it off. But if you wanted to go get a tummy tuck or a facelift or veneers and some short, fat, bald guy walked in the room like that, it's just very different. And when you look at the Dorfmans and you said the Abbas and all things like that, man, if you're thinking about going into cosmetic dentistry, I think the first thing you need to do is look in the mirror and say, do you just reek enthusiastic cosmetics? You do. I mean, hell, your hair looks like it's a wig, I really, so I truly believe that. I know of no one that looks like me who's doing $2 million a year in cosmetic dentistry. Cosmetics is, and it's also cool that you just like it. I mean, some people, you said there's some molars you don't want to do. Those are the only ones I want to do. I don't want to do a molar on an incisor or a canine. Hell, I wish the hygienist could do that for us. I want the retreat on a second molar. Now you're in sports. Why do you think it is that when you're in sports, you love the competition? You're ready for the game. You're ready to just go 100%. And then that same mindset walks into dentistry and looks at the PA and says, well, that canal might be sclerosed and it might be hard to find. And I think we're just not going to show. I think we're just going to punt this game and do a default. And then I know so many dentists who are like that all week, Monday through Friday. And then when they go golfing on Saturday, they're trying to be Tiger Woods. It's like, why don't you try to be Tiger Woods in the operatory? Why do you think there's such a diversity of that?
As far as people being competitive outside of dentistry?
Yeah, and then in dentistry, they're just like Dr. Wimpy. I don't know, I would have a long route. It's like, why is that?
I have no idea. I know that my mentality is kind of a go-getter mentality, and I think that that's from sports, and I think that I really, it comes from a place of the best person gets the best job type of thing, and I think that that's why I try and always push to do the best work. But I don't know. I've noticed that too. A lot of people, they're competitive outside of it, but then they see, like you said, a certain thing, and they just don't want to push to do it. But I think you got to make yourself uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I think that's something that I gained from athletics. And maybe that's why I feel like I have that.
Another thing, they always fear that they're going to mess up and get sued. Well, guess what? Everybody's going to get sued once. And you know who should worry about that? Your dental malpractice carrier. It's like, when my boys would call me up and they wrecked their car, I never asked, how much. I asked, is everybody fine? That's the only thing that matters. Right. The person who should worry about my 4 boys driving a car is State Farm, not me. And so I'm just go in there and have some fun. So when so you're saying go to Sugar House, there's going to be great needs for pediatric dentistry, implants, cosmetic, as far as routine dentistry. As you set out on your journey to master these disciplines, how do you think you'll do it? Do you think you'll do it online? Do you think you'll go to courses? I mean, let's start with cosmetics. Where are you going to learn how to be a great cosmetic dentist?
I have been, fortunately with this position, he offers the whole online library for Spear education. So I've been working with Frank Spear online nonstop, learning all the cosmetics of everything, implant placements. And I know that I need to do some of the hands-on stuff, but I think when you can really conceptualize it and watch his videos, Frank Spear does a great job at just basically dumbing it down and walking people through it. So I've taken so many CE courses from him already, not only on those 2 subjects, on a lot of other subjects, because like I said, I want to do and have the knowledge on most things in dentistry. But I think that that'll be my first step. And then from there, I'll be actively pursuing and listening to what are the best courses as far as implants, cosmetics, everything like that. And I'll go do those. So
Frank Spear online, that's a lot more lower cost than Frank Spear in person. I look at these online courses, like Dentaltown has 400 online courses, and they're like an Uber fare for each one. And people pass over that and pay an Uber fare to go to the airport, fly across the country, and drop $3,000. It's just a lot easier to learn online, don't you think?
It's more convenient for sure.
Well, how many times when you're watching that online course did you think, I really need to be in the room looking over your shoulder while he's doing that?
I I actually, so far, I have not thought that. And the reason is because I can just always reverse it and go back and watch that again, take some notes. I can kind of go at my own pace, if that makes sense, and just kind of work through it in my own process. And if I have any questions, I can look them up online at the same time that I'm watching the courses. So I think that it's actually been a nicer fit for me right now as far as convenience and how to go through the videos and reverse them and watch everything again.
Yeah. So, what would you consider spear? Would you consider that cosmetics, occlusion, TMJ, full mouth rehab? Where do you where would you put his genre?
I've watched videos on every one of those, but I know that he does have a lot of worn dentition stuff that he's kind of known for. And then Pete Dawson's more of the occlusion person to go to. So I've read his book too. But I think as far as worn dentition and cosmetics, I think that's where Frank probably takes the cake.
And where are you going to learn implant training?
I've done some courses through Spear, but I think that I've heard good things about implant pathways. But
Justin
I don't
Moody.
know. Yeah, Justin Moody out here. So I'm interested in possibly going that route because I think that implants is something that you truly need to do hands-on. I know that there's opportunity for a hands-on experience in Abundant where the doctors there will walk you through an implant case and they'll do it with you and things like that. So that's probably going to be, step one, and then really understand it and then continue on with CE courses.
Wow. So what do you what advice do you have for the kids in dental school that aren't graduating for another 1, 2, or 3 years on preparing for this day that comes to you this Friday?
I think that it's never too early to start looking for a job, for one, and I think you need to keep your eyes and ears open to everything. I think you can't discredit anything and you can't close the door to any opportunities. I think you need to truly just be a sponge and take in everything. And when a doctor says, are you willing to do this case? If you feel comfortable and confident, I think school is such a good place for you to go in and do the work, because at the end of the day, you do have a seasoned doctor right behind you who can bail you out.
So what's the attitude and prevailing beliefs about leaving dental school and going to work for a big major DSO that's got 100 boxes? And are you hearing good things? What are you hearing?
It's a mixed bag with that one. And I think that, I looked into it because I think that it's a good opportunity. Like you said earlier on, you can learn a lot from those people because they've been doing it and they've been doing basically what everybody else is trying to do from a business standpoint. So you should probably take their advice, but it's a mixed bag. I think a lot of people view them poorly. I think that a lot of these opportunities, if you look at them from certain ways, every opportunity has its pros and cons. It's just depending on what fits and works for you. So I think, like I said, it's a mixed bag. I think that there are a lot of positives, especially with Heartland. I think does a lot of really good things. Pacific does some good things, and I've heard good things about some of the others too.
Yeah, do those have the best brand names in dental school, Heartland and Pacific? You mentioned Rick Workman in Heartland and Stephen Thorne in Pacific. Are those the two best brands of the DSOs? Are there others, or?
I think I hear the majority of the things that are good that I hear come from Heartland, and then I would say Pacific's right next door to that, and then Aspen. Those are kind of the three key players that you hear about as far as the big DSOs and things like that. But I would say Heartland probably gets the best rep, and then from there,
yeah,
and just what I've heard.
And how long do you think they work at DSOs or associates for anyone until they want to start thinking about starting their own business?
I've heard, you hear the numbers and the statistics and things like that. Some people leave after a year. Some people, leave after 3 to 5. And I think 3 to 5 is probably a pretty good guess, because I think that's when the most of the doctors who I talk to, they say it takes about 5 years for you to truly get comfortable and confident with everything you're doing. So that would be just a guess, but it also depends. Some people are doing it as they know it's an interim because they're just waiting for their dad to finish building their other practice that they're going to go work in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what would you advise to a young dental student that's in dental school or just started their own practice to learn more business information? Where do you think people can learn the business of dentistry the best, fastest, easiest, lowest cost?
Podcasts.
Yeah.
I think podcasts are going to be the best place, because yours, Dentalpreneur, The Thriving Dentist, all those podcasts, Dental Hacks. I think those have so many good tips. And like I said, if you are willing to go out and contact some of these people that are on there that are, at the forefront. I talked with Brady Frank ad nauseum because he just had so much knowledge about business, and I just picked his brain. So I think if you can get in contact with some of these doctors who are truly, at the top of the business game where you want to be, if you see someone doing what you want to do, contact them. That's why I've contacted you. I've contacted Mark Kostas. My goal is to learn as much as I can from people like you and all those people that are doing the business side.
Yeah, and you know what? All those people, these podcasts, they're a lot of work. It's a hell of a lot of work, and it's free, and it's all in the service. That shows you what kind of profession you are, where all these people are working really hard to get you faster, easier information for free. And it's really a cool profession. And the part of the networking thing is so important. A lot of dentists are just like physicists and chemists, they're shy introvert people. And in a social, we live in a social herd of 8 billion humans living on about 5% of the surface of this planet, 70% is water. And man, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. And that kid, I meet dentists all the time, and I'm pointing across the street to a dental office across the street. And I said, how long have you practiced across the street from that guy? 7 years. When's the last time you've had dinner with him? Never. It's like, are you an alien? You're both dentists. So do you think it's, did this come from your sports, your family? Where did you get to have the, just the foresight and the energy to call Brady Frank? Most people in your class, if you just told them they had to call Brady Frank, they'd probably be stressed and have anxiety and run. Talk about the importance of networking.
I think networking is huge. And I don't think that I think networking is huge because I think it gets you in front of the people who are important for you to have opportunities. And I think that you need to go out and get opportunities. You never want to get in a situation where shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I think I saw that too many times growing up. And I think also, my parents and my brother really, they promote a hardworking attitude. And that, to me, networking is a piece of that. You need to get to know people and you need to just move on. And I think, sometimes you got to do some of the uncomfortable things to get to where you want to be. And I think that networking is something that people truly are uncomfortable with. And I think a natural knack because of my sales background too. I think that I was just comfortable with contacting people and just talking to them and, hey, what can I do to get in your position? Teach me, type of thing. And people have a good response to that a lot of times, truly, because you're basically saying you're an expert. Teach me what you know so I can get to where you are. It's a compliment when you reach out to someone. And I think you have to go into with that mentality.
This August 4th will be my 30-year anniversary of my first lecture in New York City. And I graduated in 87, and I gave my first lecture in 90. And everybody's like, well, you can't go lecture. You're a 28, 29-year-old idiot. And who would listen to you? And I said, well, I think I know 2 or 3 things, but the reason I'm going to start lecturing is if I throw my name out and my hat out in the crowd, it's going to open up all these doors and opportunities. I'm going to meet all these people. So I started lecturing when I knew almost perfectly nothing.
Right.
And the best seminar ever was the first time I went to Cincinnati. It was in 90. I think there was like 4 dentists that showed up to my seminar and everything. And one left at the first break, 2 left at lunch. And there's one guy and he says, hey, instead of lecturing me, when do you fly out? And I said, tomorrow morning. He goes, well, why don't you cancel your hotel and come spend the night with me? And we talked about dentistry all night long. And, and it's just, I can trace back everybody I met from this guy, who I met from this guy. It's so networking. And the other thing I think it's great about is when you get in your office, you walk across the street and the person thinks that, you shouldn't have came here and your competition, he views you as negative. Well, you needed to do that to be able to cross his name off the list because about half think in fear and scarcity and half think like you and me in hope, growth, and abundance. And you just need to quickly find, just like in an interview process, who cares you had to interview 10 assistants? You didn't know this one was the best until you knew these 5 were not the best. So just get out there and press the flesh and run for mayor. And all these people who think optimistically, hope, growth, and abundance. And also, it's a natural thing to want to take a kid under your wing. You know what I mean? And
Right.
And when you're talking about implant training, I want you to learn implants from somebody in Salt Lake that can bail you out when you have a problem, not jump on an airplane and have to fly to the Dominican Republic or something. I don't know why dentists are taking all these expensive implant courses when there's this shy, adorable periodontist across the street who doesn't have the guts to come over and shake your hand. And when you drop in on him, he's so excited and he wants to tell you everything he knows. In fact, your first implant kit, I guarantee you, he's got 2 implant kits that he stopped using years ago. I mean, you shouldn't even have to buy an implant kit. Every periodontist I know has 5 or 6 kits and will never use 3 of them ever again. So there's a good starter kit. But same with Invisalign. Half the orthodontists will say, last thing I need you is you doing Invisalign. I mean, I got Smiles Direct Club. I got blah. And then the other one just like, I want to be buddies with you because, my God, you know, you're going to be here in Salt Lake for 30, 40 years, $1 million practice, and I'm sure there's some ortho in there that he doesn't want to do.
Right.
You know, and that is, so just learn, if you're going to learn ortho before you take a course, I'd be having a buddy that's an orthodontist. Before you start placing implants, I'd have a buddy that's a periodontist, oral surgeon, pediatric dentist, you know, all that stuff, you know, because you're always going to get in over your head on some patient, and you're going to want a friend, not memories of some lecture in New York City.
Right. That's true. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So what else, what other advice did you want to impart today?
You know, I think keeping up with the knowledge, I think that you always got to be growing. I think that's one thing that I think would be a good tip to anybody that's going into this profession. And just keep up with some of the trends of social media too. I think the social media is growing so much that that's a piece that unfortunately you're going to have to get used to doing. So those are my 2 tips. So
when you say social media, have you switched gears to is that marketing, new patient acquisition? Is that how you view social media? Is it just purely a marketing play, or are you viewing it somehow else?
I think that it's a marketing play, but I also think that it's a little bit of accountability. I think that it's the same thing with these podcasts. I think you got to hold yourself accountable, but I think that at the end of the day, everything's going towards the internet in some form, and social media is one of those avenues right now where when somebody searches for a dentist, they're going to search on Google, they're going to search on Instagram, they're going to search on Facebook, and if you don't have a good rating or if you don't have a presence, then they're never going to know about you. So even if you're the best dentist in the whole state, but you don't have a website, you're going to miss out on opportunities by not having a website or an Instagram. And that's that same thing with that Smile Virtual. I mean, it coaches you up on how to do that to make your presence a little bit more known, and then it can drive your sales from that end, because it's a piece that so many people are missing out on, that piece of the pie right now. And I think it's the way of the future, whether you like it or not.
So what do you think of these, the new social medias, all the social medias, where are dental students at in social media? Have they left Facebook because their mom's on it now their grandma's on it? Are they into Instagram, Snapchat? When you go back to Utah and you want to start focusing on social media, which ones from the top to the bottom are you going to be spending your time and resources on?
I think with a profession like dentistry, I think Instagram is going to be a good one for people with my age group. And then I think that Facebook's going to be a good one to get everybody else, and then if you can connect the 2 from there, I think Facebook and Instagram are going to be the best for dentists right now. Twitter, I think it's good to have a presence, but I don't know if it's going to be the best one for dentistry. I think people want videos and pictures of dentistry and an understanding, because a lot of times, you know, we talk to these patients sometimes like they understand, you know, some of these terms, but they don't. So it's easier in picture format to let them know this is what you could get from a before and after. And they like seeing before and afters.
Now, I know I'm old, and I'm probably older than your dad, and I know you said you're young and like Instagram, but you know the other one that you gotta keep your eye on is LinkedIn, because everybody on LinkedIn has a great job with benefits. There is
Right.
no one on LinkedIn that's unemployed, doesn't have dental, and doesn't want to have a nice smiley teeth. I mean, my gosh. And then when you get someone in from LinkedIn, around here, they work at Intel. Well, how many people work at
Right.
Intel that are an engineer with dental insurance? I love LinkedIn, but I know the young like Instagram and the old like Facebook. I knew Facebook was doomed when my mom told me she loved it, and and I knew they'd all be going. So talk to the old people listening that just always tell me what is Instagram and Snapchat? What is it with that? Why would you like Instagram more than Facebook? To the people who don't get it.
I think as far as from a dentistry standpoint, I think that it's more conceptual. I think you can just open up and look at pictures. You can search by what you're interested in, things like that. And then you can kind of get just a picture view of everything that's going on. It's less, it can be less wordy, but you can also put the words in there to explain things. I think it's just a quick, instant gratification, I guess, is one way to put it, because that's kind of what social media is. But the pictures just make it a little bit more easy to understand what's going on, especially from a dentistry standpoint. But I mean, I'm currently reading the book, Crushing It. And there was a dentist in New Jersey who she made a presence on Musically, which I've never used Musically. And it's an app more for, teens and younger. And she made a booming amount of patients because of that app, because kids would tell their parents, I want to go to this dentist. Can we drive to New Jersey to go to this dentist? And she got new patients just because of Musically. So I think that, any avenue can be successful, but I think Instagram is kind of a simple one because of the picture format.
Okay, so you have a lot of ambition, youth, energy, and you want to own a chain of dental offices one day.
Right.
How are you going to get from what's your plan to get from here to there? And what do you think you'll need to achieve that goal?
Well, I think that I'll need more knowledge. I don't know everything I need to know right now, but I know that I'm growing every day, and I think that I need to keep in touch with people who are successful and kind of move on from there. I need to contact people that have like minds like me and just have a growth mentality with that. And I think that doing things like this, getting my name out there with this podcast and things like that, as well as the social media presence, I think that you just got to be ahead of it, and you got to be willing to pick up on new softwares and move with the times like that, because things are changing quickly.
Who are your role models in the corporate dentistry DSO world?
I look up to Dr. Neubauer. I think he's doing a lot of things, and he's pushed me, he's changed me a lot as far as his education standpoint and dentistry. I look up to Dr. Mohan a lot. I think that she's got a lot of really good foundational things that can be incredibly successful as far as a business standpoint. And I look up to, I'm spacing on his name right now, the doctor for Heartland.
Rick Workman.
Yeah, Rick Workman. I think what he's doing is phenomenal. And I think that that's somebody, I actually tried to contact him. I couldn't find his contact information anywhere.
Oh my gosh. All you gotta do is send me an email.
Then I will do that.
Yeah, and I'll reply to both of you. But you know what? It's really amazing. Like, if you go there and you stay in Rick Workman's house, I mean, grew up in Effingham, Illinois. He's just like the most quality guy you'd ever meet in your life. And his whole corporate culture is a bunch of people like that in Effingham. And then you go out and meet Steve Thorne. I mean, Steve Thorne's the type of guy where when he wanted to go on vacation safari in Africa, his wife brought home 2 kids. I mean, 2 orphans. I mean, they're just good people. And all people don't like competition, but you really want to watch a Super Bowl where the Cardinals show up and there's no opposing player, and then you're going to feel good about it. I mean, competition brings out the best of you. And I like a lot of the things the DSO. What I like the most about the DSOs is how they provide so much employment to these young dental students, because all the older guys like me, their dental office in 168 hours in a week, they're only open 32, so that the office isn't even open 81% of the week. 8.5% of all emergency room visits in America are odontogenic in origin, and that's why. In fact, my orthopedic surgeon friend up the street has been a patient of mine forever. I mean, he says the reason he says dentists aren't real doctors is because when you're out on the golf course, they have to go to the hospital and see him. He's like, he says pretty sad when orthopedic surgeons are helping out in the emergency room, and then we're all sitting there like, dude, 1 in 10 of these people are teeth related. Where the hell's the dentist? And so I hope these DSOs will add more competitive pressure. I mean, I think Americans should have the right to order a pizza and have it delivered to their home within 30 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the emergency rooms and the pizza deliveries are doing that. Where's the dentist?
Right. I agree. That's what I mean.
It's because they don't want to hustle. I mean, when you're making $175,000 a year on average, why are you going to go out there and work hard? Well, get a business model. And I see it. They'll bring on an associate and they'll work the same hours as the old guy. It's like, how does that? I mean, that doubles your production, but it doesn't double your availability. And as far as like Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff, I don't care how good your Facebook ad is. When they call your office and you're closed, they're going to call the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And the really young, ambitious ones, they forward their phone over to their own iPhone. And they start telling about a toothache. They say, well, call me back, FaceTime me back. And then you're sitting here looking at in their mouth. I mean, it's all about hustle. And when you say you got to get out there and hustle and act like you're running for mayor, that's just it. I mean, that's all you got to do. You go out there with a great attitude and you hustle and you think in hope, growth, and abundance, and you work like no man has for a decade. You'll live like no man has for 3 decades.
Exactly.
That's
exactly how it works.
And you won't have to go back to work and hustle until after you get the alimony check. And then, so that's that'll cost you more in your student loans if you don't be careful on that. What else? What else advice do you have for these young kids?
My advice is if you ever have any questions for me, feel free to reach out because I know it was useful for me to have people that I could reach out to. So if anybody wants to reach out to me as far as questions with dental school, as far as the process of getting accepted and things like that, or the Smile Virtual, if they want to reach out, I can do consults with that and I can get you in contact so we can get you that product. Anything that you have questions on, feel free to reach out, email.
And how would you want to reach out to you?
Email or Instagram is a perfect way to reach out to me.
Email or Instagram. So you can. So do you want to give your email address now, or would you rather not?
Sure, I can give it to you. It's B as in Brian. So B Jankowski, JANKOWSKI 13 @gmail.com.
And where's that? What's that 13 mean? Where's that number?
13.
Was that your 13. Jersey?
That was my number in college. Yep.
Nice.
Lucky number 13.
Right on. And then on Instagram, what are you on Instagram?
It's at Doctor, so DR, and then Brian Jankowski, so DRBRIANJANKOWSKI. And they can reach out. You can do private message with that, or you can just write on one of my posts. Either way, and I'll get back to you. And that's for any questions with dental school or that Smile Virtual. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out.
So on your student loan and debt, is one of your first thoughts to refinance it, or how do those look, or have you any thoughts on that?
My plan is to be pretty aggressive, and I talked about this on my other podcast with Mark Kostas, and I plan on being aggressive. My plan is to have that pay off in 5 years. So,
the tough thing that to realize the young kids don't figure out is the opportunity cost. So they'll go buy a house where they own the land and building, but they don't own an office, and the office can make you a ton of money, and the house is a money pit. They don't blink at buying a car, but they won't pay that money on continuing education or equipment or a CBCT. So it's just a matter of shifting money from consumption, and you don't use other people's money and pay interest on it for consumption. You use other people's money for leverage to own a business. So like I could have gone to McDonald's and worked 40 hours a week for 10 years and saved up my money, went to dental school. But then when I graduated from dental school, I make $100 an hour. So it was really smart to borrow other people's money, go to dental school now, so I can pay that back at $100 an hour income instead of saving up for 10. And you look at these dentists, and I mean, it's like, my gosh, it's like, do they think they're a rock star? I mean, do they have an album I don't know about? And you look at their house, and you're like, Dude, you're 3 years out of school, and then you say, okay, you're in town. Let's go drive by your mom and dad's house. Your dad's worked 40 hours. He lives in this dorky house in Mesa, and he drives some old car. And you're a dental student with $300,000 in debt. You got a $350,000 brand new house. You're driving a fancy car. Your wife's driving a fancy car, and then they want to know, what they're gonna do. So it's just a matter of investing all your money and from debt free. And I'm going to say something that's totally inappropriate and sounds bad on every level, but the foreign-born dentists get it. They come out of school, and 5 years later, they have no debt, and the rest of their life, they're putting money in a bank account where they're making a nickel off each dollar for the rest of their life. If you're born in America, you run into these guys. I just met a dentist a few days ago, 60 years old, just bought a new home on a 30-year mortgage.
Wow.
It's like, so you're going to be 90 someday?
Right.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's just you. If you're always paying a nickel on every dollar you spend from other people's money, make sure it's an investment that's going to grow and pay all of that back. So it's just living below your means. Do you and your wife talk about living below your means? I mean, is that something you guys think about a lot, or are you more like fake it till you make it? We can spend it now because you're going to make it later.
We have talked about it a lot, living below our means, and that's always been the thought process with everything. I think that's one part that gets hard with some students, because you hear what a dentist can do financially, so you assume that right out of dental school that's where you should be, but it's just not the truth, because you have all those loans, and if you want to buy a house or anything like that, your moving expenses, this, that, and the other. So we've talked about that a lot, and I mean, we still have her car from 2003, her little. She doesn't like when I call it this, but it's a little Toyota Hoopty, and we still drive that everywhere. So, I mean, we live below our means, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
we're comfortable though.
That is just the best advice. I mean, why would you want to go out? And then the other thing they do, it's a cat chasing its tail. So they're all burned out and they're fried. So what are they going to do? It's vacation. They're going to go to Hawaii and drop 10 grand. Well, now you're going to be even more stressed. Why didn't you go to the lake and go fishing for $1? You know, and I got kids. I know a lot of people from these two dental schools in our backyard, the one you go to in Mesa and the other one. And I know them and I know their dad. And I'm like, well, when you get out of school, why don't you go live with your dad? Because I asked your dad if he'd let you move in. And his dad said, my God, he'd love it. And he's like, I don't want to live with my dad. Okay, well, you got $400,000 student loans and you just went and bought a $350,000 house. Oh, well, that's going to be a good investment. It's like, really? Could you have Warren Buffett sign off on that? I'm pretty sure. Just live below your means, move back in with your parents. You don't need all the new car. And then someday, when you can buy all that stuff in cash, then you're going to find out a new deal that when you do have the cash, like my Lexus is 2004. Every time I take it to the dealer for an oil change, they're like, well, if you give me your car at $100,000, we'll put you in a 2019 one. It's like, well, dude, I have $100,000 in cash, and I don't want to give it to you. My Lexus is fine. And what I also love about is my 5 grandchildren. I don't care if they're lighting firecrackers in the back seat. I mean, I don't care what they're doing in my car. I don't care if anybody dings it. It's free. It works. It's a Lexus. In fact, it's got 160,000 miles on it because I only live 3 miles from work. My goal is to get 250,000 on it.
Yeah, why not? Gets you from A to B.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe we went over an hour. I'll tell you one last parting thing. As 32 years as a dentist, all those young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed dentists that came by the office and wanted to press the flesh or whatever, they were a different breed of cat completely, and they all crushed it. They all did. It was the people that are hungry. I mean, when you're 56, you can smell the energy in the youth. And the ones that came by and all these people you talk to, I mean, I would bet my house that you will absolutely crush it. I mean, it's just an attitude. It's your energy. It's your commitment. It's unconditional responsibility. And just go out there. I mean, if you knock on a door and it doesn't open, keep knocking or break it down. I mean, you'll just do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Last takeaway. What did you learn from being an amazing athlete? What did you learn the most in being an athlete at Weber State that you're so glad you learned as an athlete that you'll be bringing to your dental office?
I think that accountability and integrity have been two of the things that have been so useful, along with having a work ethic that you just have to get up and do it. I was fortunate enough to be alongside a lot of coaches and players who have been very successful, and just to learn some of the information from them as far as, you don't have a choice. If you're having a bad day outside of athletics, it doesn't matter. You still got to show up. And if you don't perform, then you're nobody. So it was a good experience to just kind of learn to just get going. And I had a lot of that foundational from my family growing up and things like that. But I think sports really pushed it, and it forced it, because if you don't get up and do the work, well, then you don't have a scholarship anymore and you're done with school, list goes on. So I think that those things, integrity, accountability, and work ethic, have been three of the biggest things that I'll take away from that and that I learned.
And he said you can email him at bjankowski13@gmail.com. You can email me, howard@dentaltown.com, and you need to find a bunch of homies that are like that, available, accessible. You can email, you can call. My gosh, if the luckiest thing in my entire career in Phoenix is just having, a dozen really good dental friends that are just always there for you, do anything for you. That's what I love about dentistry. Any country you go to, they're always in the top 5% years of education, income, but they're just when you choose to go into a profession where people come in pain and you do surgery on them with your hands all day long, it's just a special class of people. And you're lucky to be a part of this profession, and go out there and meet them, and you're going to crush it. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and good luck on Friday.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate your words.